الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
اللهم صل على
سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويحذركم الله نفسه صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost, I congratulate all of you on the auspicious month of Rabiul Awwal. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of our commemoration of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wasalam. And more importantly, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us on that path that the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salatu wasalam took, that path which we again took 2 months to discuss, to commemorate, to remember, to actually examine and understand the plight of Imam Hussein, understand the plight of Imam Zain al-Abidin thereafter, the plight of Bibi Zainab Kulthum. And it is very important for us to learn those lessons, learn that journey that they took. And one of those topics that I had discussed over the course of those 2 months is about the self, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also tells the believers, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusakum, that, oh, you believe that it is important for you to understand yourself. And particularly we seek to understand ourselves in context of the life of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salam, so that we can walk in the footsteps of the Ahlul Bayt. And doing so, we need to take or pay very close attention to ourselves, our nafs, the dynamics of ourself. And in that regards, one of the beautiful hadith and statements that is attributed to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdhalu salam. In fact, this hadith is brought in one of Sheikh Suduk's book, Al-Khisal, where he speaks about different traits and characteristics. And here he speaks about the types of fear. But this relates to the nafs, as I mentioned before in one of my discussions, especially in Dallas when I was speaking there, that when we examine the self, and quite often we have an aspect about us of fear, khawf, something that's natural. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, he also says, وَلِنَبْلِوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالنَّقْصِ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَالنَّقْصِ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also tests you with khawf, with fear. So fear is something that you don't get rid of. It exists. But what we need to do and we need to understand is how to manage fear. And I'm not going to go into that discussion. I spoke about that in Dallas. But this hadith tells us about 5 types of fear. And this is a good type of fear. It's speaking about the positive aspects of fear, or at least that if we understand this idea or concept of khawf in this context and how our souls, how our self connects to this dimension of our existence, of our being, of khawf. So what are these 5 types of khawf? And again, this hadith is mudmara, as I said, that is associated with one of the ma'sumin. And it's not clear. I would probably have to do a little bit more research to dig to find out which ma'sum is actually related to, or perhaps as it's being mudmar, meaning that it's something that someone heard, or even if not, even if one of the scholars have kind of put this together, then it is very inspirational and gives us foresight about fear and the types of fear that we have. At least 5 types of fear that if we have them or if we manage them in a proper way, that it will lead to our self-development. And inshallah, over these next 2 khutbahs, inshallah, I will give this hadith and some explanations of it. So it's anwa'ul khawf khamsa, so 5 types of fear. And the names of these 5 types of fear, it's fear in Arabic, it says khawf, khashya, wajal, rahba, and hayba. In other words, what these 5 types of fear are, the first one, khawf, which everyone kind of knows, they've heard of this, that it is, at least as we're contextualizing it in this hadith, it's like anxiety, the normal fear that we have, and anxiety, which I spoke about, that what is this anxiety and how do we manage this anxiety? The second one, khashya, which we can translate as concern or apprehension. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that, but just so that we'll have an outline of what these 5 types of fears are. The third is what is called wajal. You perhaps heard of this, wajalat qulubukum. So wajal is a type of kind of dismay or nervousness, as someone is nervous about something. Because when you're nervous about something, or when you're afraid of something, or afraid to approach something, a lot of times you're nervous. Oh, well, how do I deal with this thing? The fourth is reverence or rahba. This is a type of fear that we have, or at least even we want to gain that type of fear. So a very positive type of fear is reverence for something, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fifth is awe, to be in awe about something, meaning, and that type of fear is, again, when you recognize that there's something that is greater than yourself. And it's not that type of fear where, oh, well, I'm afraid and I'm timid, but you're just awestruck. You're like, whoa, this is something that is quite amazing. And you know that you cannot exceed that thing because it is so great. So in this tradition, it says the first, la khawf. What is this type of fear or anxiety? This is amma la khawf li ajli dhunub. So this type of fear that comes about is because of sin. One of the places that we understand this sin, as Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi salatu wasalam, as he described when he was interacting with some of his companions, that why do people fear this transition between from this role into the next? Again, when we look at the whole last 2 months, this is one of the things that our focus is on. We're commemorating. And what are we commemorating? Death, the loss of life of Imam Hussein, of his companions, of the Ahlul Bayt. We're commemorating those things. But in turn, those things are not simply, oh, well, we're mentioning them, we're commemorating them, and we just keep moving on. No, it is to prepare us as well for that transition from this life to the next. And Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, this is because most people, they focus so much on building this life and not building the next life. He says, so people, they fear to leave from a place which they have built and established this, abad. They built everything up here to a place that they've destroyed. So that fear of death, he says, is because we haven't prepared for it. We haven't built anything there. So we're not expecting anything there. And we can put this in very good perspective right here ourselves. That imagine that if we had a nice piece of land on an island, and we're building, so we're building our our vacation home there. That how much we would look forward to actually even traveling there, because oh yeah, this place is being built, or oh finally the builders they finished building, they sent me the email that oh hey your vacation home is finished. Even if we never traveled there, but we know, oh, hey, online, because we could do a lot of stuff. I purchased land, I put my investment in someone to build. Never went to the island, but I saw it's very beautiful. And so now I'm expecting to go there. How much we will long to go there, because we know we built something. We have something there. Likewise, but if we don't have anything in our akhirah, that, as Imam Hassan was, we'll fear that. So that first type of fear is this kind of anxiety, this type of thing. But it is also, especially when it's related to something like that, to our akhirah, it can be a good fear. As this hadith, it points out, it says that, yes, that khawf is because of sins. He says, وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. That person who has that fear, or that kind of anxiety about, oh, well, what have I established in the hereafter? Again, not a bad anxiety where it makes you dysfunctional, but one that, again, makes you strive to build something for your akhirah. It says, and that person who fears that station of their Lord, lahu jannatan, then he will have two paradises. And what are these two paradises? One, if they establish their amal, their actions as they should, if they model their life after the life of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, alayhim salatu wasalam. There are barzakh that when they're placed in that grave, it will be like paradise. Their life in the hereafter, the akhirah, it would also be paradise, lahu jannatan. But it starts with, again, having that, again, what I'm saying is a positive type of fear. That fear is to really to self-assess ourselves that, well, what actually am I doing in this world? Am I actually building something for my akhirah, or am I only building for this world? Is my focus solely here, or is my focus also there? That I'm building something that I'm looking forward to. And if you have this type of khawf, and you're not oblivious to what is going to happen hereafter. Again, we see this model. We see this model in Karbala, and all of those individuals that, oh, well, hey, I know who Imam Hussein is. I know that if he makes dua, his dua is answered. And he said that, oh, if I leave this, he will make dua and Allah forgive me. But still, no, I want the money. I want the land. I want to govern this province or that place. And they built nothing. So first is to recognize, because as we see that this 5 positive types of fear, it comes also with 5 transitions of ourselves. As the hadith says, al-khawf lil-asin. The khawf is for those individuals who are disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who make mistakes, who sin. So that means that first and foremost, we have to recognize our sins. We have to single them out and begin to work on them. That, oh, with regards to this sin, which I know is destroying my akhirah, I need to have at least fear of that, how bad is it destroying my akhirah, so that I can remove it. وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. So that's the first type of fear and the first stage of that journey of the soul, to the highest level of fear, which we will come to, which is haiba, as we mentioned, to be awestruck with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second type of fear that is mentioned is khashya. As we mentioned, that this is being concerned, being apprehensive about things. And who are those who are concerned and apprehensive about things? As the hadith goes, also that wal khashya lil alimin. So al-khashya, this concern and apprehension, are for those who know, those who have understanding. Again, they recognize their sin, and now they're becoming those who have alim, who have knowledge. As it says, and why does this fear come about? This type of fear. It says, وَالْخَشْيَةِ لِأَجْلِ رُؤْيَةِ التَّقْصِيرِ. It says, khashya, it comes from understanding or perceiving that there's a shortcoming. That, oh, I'm at fault. There's something that I'm not doing that I should be doing. And the verse that is associated with this, according to the hadith, it says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. So after we may be in that state of sinning, we recognize that, yes, we may be disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or at the very least, we begin that second journey to gain knowledge. Okay, well, what is that sin I'm doing? And mashallah, our hadith and the statements from Ahlul Bayt alayhim afusatu wasalam, and even particularly, first and foremost, the Quran speaks about these sins. Often speaks about as well the detriment that it does to ourselves, to our souls. And subhanAllah, if we dig deeper, quite often we will find that in the opposite of certain sins, we have also, again, something that is in the opposite of it. So, oh, if this is my illness, then what do I need to do to correct that? Give an example. Oh, if I'm a person who, again, I hoard money, or I do this, or I do that, then okay, you give zakat, you give sadaqah, you do this. So there is a counter to these things. So, and one must, again, go forth and to learn these things. Why? Because إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. So those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who have this type of concern and apprehension, are those servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are ulama. It doesn't mean alim that the person went to Qum and got an imama. No, it means a person who, again, is understanding their deen. Well, what is my deen? What is my responsibility? What do I have to do to correct this misdeed that I have done? One example I've given, perhaps I gave you there, but I'll mention it to you as well. This Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Shahab, ibn Shahab al-Zuhri, one of the persons who was working for the Umayyads, but after, and he had to harm someone. He was punishing someone on behalf of the Umayyads and ended up killing that person. Then he became distraught, dismayed, and he lived in a cave for 9 years. Again, separating himself from society, his family, everyone. When he encountered Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he says, listen, go and pay the diya and go back to your family. You need to take care of your family. And he told Zuhri, he was like, look, he says, what is worse is your hopelessness than the sin. He says, I'm more concerned about your hopelessness than I am about your sin. That has you can change that. You give the diya. Then go back and fulfill your responsibility and your duty to your family. So, and then he told Zuhri, he says, then go and learn your deen. Find someone who's going to teach you your deen. And of course, then he became one of the followers of and companions of Imam Zayn al-Abidin, because he realized that, oh, well, no one can teach me my deen like Imam Zayn al-Abidin, alayhi salatu wasalam. So in order to transition to that next stage of fear, which is, again, a positive stage of fear, first, the fear of understanding that, oh, well, hey, there are shortcomings that I have. There are shortcomings that I need to fix so that I can fix my akhirah. Second is, again, to gain knowledge about that shortcoming. Gain knowledge about, oh, well, how do I correct this sin? Is it that I need to make tawbah? What is the form of tawbah? Do I have to pay diya? Do I have to do this? Do I have to pay kafara? What do I need to do to correct this mistake that I've made? And then we're moving on this, you could say, positive trajectory of fear. So again, we have, as the verse is very clear, it says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Why? Because again, we have those of us, sometimes we just, oh yeah, we're going through with our ibadah. We know that, oh, well, maybe I have this shortcoming, we may leave it, and we never learn, okay, well, how do I fix it? How do I change it? Oh, well, if I have this bad habit of doing a riba, for example, which is sometimes, what is the solution to riba? All we hear is, oh, well, it's bad, yeah, we need to, it's not good, it's a sin, Allah dislikes it. And that's about the amount of what we say. Are we still the ibad of Allah? Yes, we're still the worshippers of Allah, servants of Allah. But we don't have ilm, we don't have knowledge of how to fix that sin, how to correct it. What is the mindset that I need to be in order to remove this sin from me? That when we take that step to learn that, oh, what is the detriment of this sin? What is its harm on my soul, on my akhirah? And then, well, Ya Allah, if you've said it's haram, then you've given me a solution. Where is that solution? What is the solution? How do I fix it? And then begin to fix that sin, fix that shortcoming. The third type of fear is wajal, as we mentioned. And wajal, which is to be kind of nervous. Wajala, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions in the Quran, and this is the verse that goes with it, where it says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. For those individuals that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, wajilat qulubuhum. Wajilat means to tremor, to shake. And so who are these individuals that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, their heart is shaking? And why is their heart shaking? On one hand, those individuals, their heart shakes, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he points out in the Quran. One is that when they read the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wajilat qulubuhum. That one, they're connected with the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so therefore, their hearts tremble. And in another verse, and that's in Surah Anfal, in Surah Al-Hajj, it mentions that these individuals, wajilat qulubuhum والصابرين على ما أصابتهم المقيمون الصلاة مما ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. And they give from what they are, they spend from what they are given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They also are those who establish the salat. So in this hadith, when it describes these individuals, that their hearts tremble. So we know the verses that are associated with it. الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. And there are two verses. One speaks about the Quran, that they have a connection with the Quran. The other speaks about, again, their establishment of their salat, their establishment of, again, giving the zakat, giving their khums, giving those things. In other words, fulfilling their social responsibility. So the hadith says that, وَأَمَّا الْوَجْلِ, this type of fear, فَلِأَجْلِ تَرْكِ الْخِدْمَةِ. So why do their hearts tremble? Those individuals who have reached this level of fear, again, you start with disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognize that, oh, well, there are shortcomings that I have. Then you come to the state of gaining knowledge about these shortcomings, how to fix them. You begin to fix them. Then you come to the state where now you're assessing your overall performance. And when you see that, oh, I know there's stuff that perhaps my service, as it says, وَأَمَّا الْوَجْلِ فَلِأَجْلِ تَرَكِ الْخِدْمَةِ, because you've left the service and that servitude. Left the service of what? One, perhaps the service and serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as you should. Your connection to the Quran, your connection to the salat, and your focus in the salat as you should have, as we should have. I say, I'll use myself as an example. And then third, my service to my fellow brothers and sisters in Islam, my service to humanity. And when we assess that, oh, what have I done? Have I just sat back and let, well, someone else will take care of it. Someone else will do this. If we, again, are sitting back, we're letting other people doing the things, and then we haven't reached that level of khawf, that positive state of khawf, or fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That fear which will take us to that final step or stage where we have haiba. But no, we're oblivious to our service and what we're doing. And we're not striving to do more. SubhanAllah, I think Sheikh Amin, he said a very nice, gave a very nice example in one of his speeches. He said that among some of the ulama that he spoke to, he says, some of them said, oh, there's one place where it's okay to be selfish. He says, and that's when you're serving others. To serve and to do and in order to, again, to correct yourselves, in order to gain the thawab, to be selfish, to continue to do things. And of course, yeah, they mention it in that way, but if you actually look at such individuals' actions, we call that selflessness. The person, at any moment, at any time, any place, they're willing to step up and to serve. And if we don't have that mindset, we don't have that perspective, again, and that transition and development of ourselves, again, we're going to fall short of developing that fear, that positive type of fear, which we call al-wajal. And only the person who, again, they see themselves that, oh, well, what I have done, even if we have done a lot, what I've done is so little. I really haven't done enough. In my recitation of the Quran, in my connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to this revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, even if we're finishing one juz, some people do that. They'll finish one juz every day, not simply in Ramadan, outside of Ramadan. Now, I really haven't done enough. But in an entire week, then what is my service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, yeah, I read the Quran, but it's only in my salah. That's it. Other than that, the Quran is where it is. Versus, oh, well, at least, again, we start small, we take baby steps. Oh, hey, I read one ayat this week, outside of what I normally recite in my salat. Again, to up our servitude and our service to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I took time to really focus on my salat. Even if it's one of the salats, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to try my best and concentrate, make sure that, whatever I do, I take these baby steps. Because otherwise, why are we commemorating? Why are we focusing so much on the Ahlul Bayt, and if we're not walking in their footsteps? If we're not gaining from them? And because they have that state of, again, wajh. Again, look at the service that Ahlul Bayt have done. Their service. And not simply to us, who we claim that we follow the Ahlul Bayt, but to humanity. What service have they done? And we still think that, oh, hey, I've done enough, or I volunteered enough, I did this or did that. To gain that positive state of wajh, our service towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, as Allah says. That, again, my service, what I give back to others, what I give to my community, what I give to humanity. So these are three of the types of positive fears that we need to develop within ourselves. Inshallah, next we will mention in the next khutbah. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أوصيائه وأولياء الله أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب والحسن بن علي والحسين بن علي وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي. عجل الله تعالى فرجه. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. First and foremost, I advise myself for taqwa, for consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then I advise each of you for taqwa, consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every action. The last two types of fear, as we've been speaking, that this is a journey of the soul to have these levels of fear, to perhaps start out in a place where we have al-khawf, and that khawf may be from our sins and our shortcomings. At least if we have that type of fear, we're recognizing that, hey, there's room for improving myself. Next, we move to that type of fear where we have concern and apprehension, again, about the well-being of ourselves. We become among those ibadillah who are ulama, that we learn about those shortcomings. We learn how to fix those shortcomings. And then we elevate ourselves to that station where, again, we have wajal, that we have our hearts tremble in sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, looking at our state. Because truly, if we looked at ourselves, and this is what we should be doing, that we look at ourselves and we see, oh, what have the Ahlul Bayt done? And not only the Ahlul Bayt, because some will argue, oh, well, hey, they're ma'soomeen. Look at all those individuals who were with Imam Hussein. They weren't ma'soom in that sense. We don't have that aqeedah where you say, oh, hey, Muslim ibn Awsajah, he was ma'soom. Habib ibn Madahir, he was ma'soom. Porter, for example, he was ma'soom. He brought Imam Hussein to Karbala. But again, he looked at his actions. He saw that, oh, again, his heart trembled. Oh, I'm in a situation now that, I have to choose hell or paradise. He made that decision to turn it around. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted his tawbah, as Imam Hussein says, yes, Allah accepts your tawbah. Now come, you stand. And now he's fighting for Imam Hussein. And he's not standing against Imam Hussein. The last two level and stages of that, of fear, which is a positive stage of fear, is yet on another plane, a higher plane. That's why we left them for last. So that fear, which, again, al-wajl, just so you know, al-wajl, it says, lil-mukhbitin, those who humble themselves. And because you definitely have to humble yourself, to not count your actions as something significant. Oh, yeah, mashallah, I volunteered today. Then, oh, that's something significant. Oh, I volunteered today, so tomorrow I don't need to volunteer. I put mine in. Someone else needs to come. We have to humble ourselves. Like Allama Tabatabai is an example. He didn't think Al-Mizan was anything. So I just did this. The next level is ar-rahba, to have reverence. And who has that type of reverence? Ar-rahba. It says, وَالرَّهْبَةُ لِلْعَابِدِينَ. At that point, we truly begin to become the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, throughout this whole process, yes, we serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should be the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At least even with the second level of fear, which is khashya, says what? Only those who fear, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Yes, we're abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether we know it or don't know it, whether we acknowledge it or don't acknowledge it, yeah, we're servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even those who are, you say, atheists, they don't understand anything. They're still the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because they can't do anything outside of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put into motion in existence. They're abd of Allah. So that abd is either jahil of this, or they have knowledge of this. That abd who has knowledge of that then has either knowledge of themselves and their sins, their mistakes, and they try to fix it or not. But to be that true abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a true abd which is conscious of their servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would develop that type of fear, which is called ar-rahba, to have reverence for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so what does that mean? And truly we have to assess ourselves, where are we at? In the hadith it says, war-rahba, why does rahba come? لِرُؤْيَةِ التَّقْصِيرِ. Why? Because the person who has that rahba also sees a shortcoming in themselves. And remember, that person who has khashya also sees a taqsir, also sees a shortcoming. And what do they see a shortcoming in? This is two levels of shortcomings. The one who has khashya sees a shortcoming, again, with regards to, again, their understanding of this path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given. This understanding that, yes, if I'm making this mistake, or if I'm doing riba, backbiting, or this and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me a way out of it. Not simply said that, oh, it's bad or it's wrong, but what is the alternative? What should I do instead of backbiting? What is the alternative? What do I do? But this taqsir that the servant feels when they reach the stage of rahba is in how that servant sees it. How do they connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do they truly connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we understand this from the verse that this hadith mentions that it connects to. It says, who are those individuals? Those are the ones who يَدْعُونَنَا رَغْبَةً وَرَهْبَةً. They call upon us with raghbah, with desire, and with that reverence. And what does that mean? It means probably quite opposite the way that we call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How do we call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Nad'uhu talabatan. We call him to seek something. Oh, Ya Allah, I'm having this difficulty. Ya Allah, get me out of this. Ya Allah, indi haja, I have a need. Oh Allah, give me this need. So we call Allah talabatan. When we look at the du'as of Ahlul Bayt, even perhaps some of the most beautiful du'as of Ahlul Bayt, if you really read it from the beginning to end, there's no talab in it. There's no request. It's simply, oh, Ya Allah, you are this. Oh Allah, your station is that. Oh Allah, this is, this is how, I love you. Those du'as are really about connecting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even in someone who says that, well, if I have no one else to connect to, that, Ya Allah, I have you. That is a dua with raghbah and rahbah. And of course, that type of dua, and if you want to understand the comparison, the dua of raghbah, it is more encompassing. It will encompass as well those duas of seeking hajat. It will encompass that as well. But quite often our duas are limited to talab. Oh, hey, we need something, let's recite dua tawassul because at the end of it, we ask for a hajat. Or let's recite this dua or this hadith at the end of it, we know that hey, there's a talab, there's a hajat. There's a hajat. How often do we recite those du'as of Ahlul Bayt? There's no hajat in it. It's simply a dua lishakirin. Oh Allah, thank you for everything you've given. Thank you for even the difficulties you've given me and the ease you've given me. Thank you for everything. Imam Ali says in a very short kind of dua, praise and shukr of Allah, Alhamdulillah, ala jami'i ma fa'ala bina wa ma'ana wa lana. That, I praise you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for everything you've done, bina, with us, or in other words, kind of been at, you've withheld us from it, you've kind of pushed us towards it, and those things that you've done for us. There's no hajj. Just, oh, alhamdulillah, I think, shukran lillah. There's no hajj. We're not calling upon, oh, I need this, ya Allah. You know, like we make our list of needs and now we go make dua. So those individuals who reach that level of fear of rahba, yad'unana raghbatan wa rahba. They call upon us simply out of their love and desire for Allah. The last stage of fear, which is good fear that we should be striving towards. Again, if you see that movement from being al-asin, those who disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to alimin, those who have knowledge of our shortcomings and sins and try to fix it, those who become mukhbitin, who humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to those who are truly serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We call upon Allah just simply to connect with Him. Then we gain that hayba, that awe. And who is this for? It says, وَالْحَيْبَةُ لِلْعَارِفِينَ. Those who have ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who gain ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why do they have this hayba of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It says, وَالْحَيْبَةُ لِأَجْلِ شَهَادَةِ الْحَقِّ عِنْدَ كَشْفِ الْأَسْرَارِ أسرار العارفين. So they develop this type of fear, which is, again, it's not a fear of being afraid, but it's a fear, it is a hayba, being at awe with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That subhanAllah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greater than what we can imagine. And what is the verse that connects with this? It says, وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He warns you of Himself. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at no moment is He disconnected from us. And the Arafi understands that. But quite often, we think that we're disconnected from Him. That we can be in a place, or we can be in a time, or we can be in a moment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't see us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not taking account of our actions. That, oh, no, well, or we're in this moment that, oh, well, if I do this, then I'm almost certain that, oh, Allah is going to forgive me. We bank on that. Oh, yeah, Allah is Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. I will do this and Allah is going to forgive me. But we really have no knowledge of that. We have no understanding. And those individuals who reach to that state of hayba, they know that, yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive anything. And I'll just give this one example. I give it all the time, but each time I mention it, especially in connection with what we learn from Ahlul Bayt, again, it just blows my mind. And that is when Imam Hussein, he stood alone, all the companions, everyone was martyred, and he asked the people in front of him, he says, that, do you not know who I am? They said, yes. Do you not know that if I make dua, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer that dua? They said, yes. He says, so in this moment, you've killed everyone. You've committed one of the gravest sins. Back down. I will go, even if I have to go outside of the Muslim lands, I will go. Just leave me alone, and I'll make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He forgives you for all of this. And that's mind-blowing. But it shows you, on one hand, the ma'rifah that Imam Hussein alayhi wasallam, he has with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To the point he knows that, look, you've taken the lives of these people. And we know that, according to some riwayat, it says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forget if you harm someone or you take someone's rights, that only after that person forgives you, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you. But Imam Hussein has that much ma'rifah that if I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that to forgive you, that all of these who you've killed, you've harmed, you take their rights, they'll be okay with it. They'll forgive you. And Allah will forgive you for all of this. But just back down from your disobedience of Allah. And they reject it. They reject it. So that type of fear that we need to strive for is that haiba. وَيُحَذِّرُكُمُ اللَّهُ نَفْسَهُ, that we know that for no moment is Allah disconnected from us. So we should strive for no moment that we are disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our consciousness is disconnected from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what true taqwa is. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah. Oh, you who believe, be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us such taqwa and consciousness of Himself. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins, to cover our shortcomings, to grant us our needs. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy upon our deceased ones. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure those who are ill among our friends and family members, and all those who are suffering from the virus. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of the Lord Zaman, make us among His helpers, His companions, and those who sacrifice their lives for Him. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشفي مرضانا وارحم امواتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من اعوانه وانصاره والمستشهدين بين يديه وتحت لواء بحق محمد واله الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم صل على محمد.